Hello everyone, welcome to Earth Archives. Please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment and share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thank you. Today's historical discussion is about the US president who died due to his Secret Service agent drinking alcohol. As many of you know, 4 US presidents have been assassinated while in office. The most famous among them are the 16th President, Abraham Lincoln, and the 35th President, John F. Kennedy. However, what most people don't know is that there is a common factor in their assassinations. Their bodyguards were under the influence of alcohol. How did this happen? On April 14, 1865, just 5 days after the American Civil War ended, President Abraham Lincoln signed his final act as president, the establishment of the United States Secret Service. That evening, President Lincoln, accompanied by his wife, went to Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. to watch the comedy Our American Cousin. They were accompanied by their attendants, Charles Forbes and coachman Francis B. Burke. The plan was for them to meet with their bodyguard, John Frederick Parker, at the theater. However, due to Lincoln's party arriving late, the play had already started when they arrived. At the time, Parker was stationed in the corridor near the presidential box, but since his view of the stage was obstructed, he decided to leave in search of a better spot. No one anticipated that during the intermission, Parker thought it would be fine to have a drink. He then met up with Forbes and Burke, and the three of them went to the Star Saloon, located to the right of the theater's exit. Around 10 p.m., the second half of the play began as scheduled, but Parker had still not returned to his post. About 15 minutes into the second act, actor John Wilkes Booth entered the presidential box without any obstruction and shot Lincoln in the back of the head with a Derringer pistol. Still no sign of Parker, Booth managed to escape after the attack. As he fled, he shouted the Virginia state motto, Sic semper tyrannis, meaning thus always to tyrants. At 7:22 a.m. the next morning, Lincoln was declared dead at the age of 56, having passed away while still in office. The assassin, John Wilkes Booth, was shot and killed 12 days later. As for the key figure, bodyguard Parker, no one knows for sure whether he returned to the theater that night. However, early the next morning at around 6 a.m., he was seen at the police station with a woman, Lizzie Williams, who was rumored to be a prostitute. On May 3rd, Parker was tried for dereliction of duty, but on June 2nd, the case was dismissed. His career as a law enforcement officer ended in 1868. William H. Crook, who had served as a bodyguard for 11 presidents, including Lincoln, never forgave Parker. He even remarked, "Parker knew he had messed up the mission, and the next day he looked like a convicted criminal. He was never the same person afterward." As for the U.S. Secret Service, its original mission was under the Department of the Treasury, primarily focused on investigating counterfeiting of U.S. currency and Treasury bonds, as well as other financial crimes. It wasn't until President Theodore Roosevelt took office that the Secret Service was tasked with protecting the President, Vice President, and their families. Fast forward to November 22, 1963, when President John F. Kennedy was staying in Fort Worth. At around 1 a.m., a group of Secret Service agents, including Paul Landis, went to a bar to quench their thirst. They smoked, drank Scotch whiskey and beer. Though they originally went in search of food, they ended up drinking their fill. The problem, however, was that the Secret Service had strict rules prohibiting agents from drinking alcohol while the president was traveling. No alcohol was allowed, not even a drop. Clearly, this group of 7 agents had violated a serious protocol. Meanwhile, the security detail outside the President and First Lady's hotel room was being handled by 2 unarmed firefighters, a major lapse in security. This issue was also of great concern. As for the 6 Secret Service agents who drank at the bar, since they were scheduled to work at 8 a.m., they quickly returned to the Texas hotel and even ordered breakfast for 6 a.m. But what about the 7th agent? He later testified in a hearing that he stayed at the bar until 5 a.m. This claim was likely true, as there were several witnesses, including reporters who saw him there. When these agents woke up, they were clearly in a state of confusion, but there was little time for them to recover. They had to join the official motorcade and head to the airport to board Air Force One. President Kennedy had come to Texas to raise funds for his 1964 re-election campaign, but, as was typical, Texas had long been a Republican stronghold. Additionally, the previous year, Kennedy had signed the Civil Rights Act, which made him unpopular with many in the state. At 12:29 p.m., the presidential motorcade arrived at the Texas Book Depository near Elm Street. Just a minute later, at 12:30 p.m., a bullet struck the president in the neck, and 5 seconds later, another bullet penetrated his head, delivering the fatal wound. The issue was that during the time between the two shots, no Secret Service agents were visible at the scene, let alone taking action to protect the president. Agent John Norris stated in JFK, breaking the silence, "While the president was shot in front of them, most agents were crouching and taking no action." 2 agents, including Paul Landis, were in the presidential limousine, but did not intervene to protect Kennedy. However, on the vice president's car, Secret Service agents followed orders, hiding the vice president under the vehicle and using their bodies as shields. The biggest difference was that the agents in the vice president's car had not been to the bar the night before, unlike those in the president's car. When Landis was asked whether his blood alcohol content affected his ability to respond, he claimed adrenaline kept them alert. But the reality was quite the opposite. Even Secret Service Director James Rowley, who must have known about the situation, never punished those who violated the rules. In fact, during hearings, he emphasized that no agents were drunk, just that they had a little Scotch whiskey and beer. When the court demanded he read the regulations he had established, which stated, "Agents are strictly prohibited from drinking alcohol while on duty or during official events," it was clear that these agents had indeed violated the rule. This also applied to any alcohol during official White House activities, meaning the agents had clearly breached the prohibition. In 1961, Abraham Bolden became the first African-American Secret Service agent, and later spent much of his life exposing the corruption within the agency. He believed that the masterminds behind the Dallas assassination had likely infiltrated the bars frequented by Secret Service agents to gather information about the president's security. From this perspective, even the Secret Service, like any other organization, has its weaknesses, and the security of the U.S. president is not foolproof. In modern times, it seems that in addition to external threats, internal personnel may also pose a risk. Do you find this aspect of history interesting? Feel free to share your thoughts.